Hello and welcome to episode 56 of the Wisdom from the Akasha podcast. My name is Suzie. I am your host and I am an Akashic Records teacher and practitioner. Today, you are going to be listening to a conversation between myself and Vanessa Lambert. You can find Vanessa over at Starseed Collective on Instagram. And Vanessa is a spiritual business coach who is dedicated to helping people, specifically people who identify as starseeds, unlock their own wealth codes and expand through her signature program, the Priestess Path Program. This is a beautiful because what Vanessa truly embodies expansion in all ways. And one of the things I said to Vanessa off recording was that she, to me, is the embodiment of audacity. When you take audacity in a positive sense, meaning to be bold and courageous and taking risks. And you will see, if you go ahead and follow Vanessa, that her work is very inspirational. She is not afraid to show up as she is, completely authentically. A lot of the time, women will hold themselves back in business, especially in spiritual business, because of witch wounding, which we've talked about before. And I think it's really good to have people like Vanessa who are so inspirational, so authentic, and so audacious. So without further ado, I will let you listen to the conversation between myself and Vanessa.
One of the things and you know this too, because in the Akashic Records, it's like, I always kind of tune out what people say a place is. And then you go and then you're like, what is this place? And then you can, oftentimes you go look or you research after and you're like, oh my gosh, that's totally what I felt too. Like I did feel heart chakra.
Yes.
And it's always like such a fun game to play where you're like, oh, I didn't see that without somebody telling me that, that's what it was. That's so cool.
I think as well, one of the beautiful things about working with the Akashic Record is exactly that you're able to go and get this information for yourself.
Yes.
Go and explore information for yourself. I do a lot in Atlantis, Lemuria for my members, and I'm doing a second part of it because we did one workshop and I'm doing another on that particular topic. And I love going off and exploring in the collective records. And then what I love even more is when I go off and I look at Edgar Casey's work or I look at another practitioner's work and I'm like, oh, that's the same as that I got. It's just that reinforcement that you are all getting the same information. And of course, there's going to be differences of interpretations based on what people are looking for. But I think just the ability to have this huge repository of knowledge available to help us all at this time, because we need the help going through the awakening process.
No, I totally agree. And I feel like that was always like growing up. I studied it with different spiritual teachers. And I remember they would just say like, oh, well, this is this spiritual teaching. And like, I don't know why I'm thinking of this, but when I was in what we lovingly referred to as psychic school in my home, because it was this year-long internship I did in the Berkeley Psychic Institute. And they brought in the idea of a cleaning rose, and you use the rose to clean your energy. And so you're getting these teachings. And I just remember thinking like, who decided that this is who decided this is a thing? And we all come in like doe-eyed students and we just accept, oh, a rose is a cleaning rose. And obviously it's really beautiful to learn from a teacher, but I've always loved having like the Akashic Records, and then you go, okay, well, what do I need to clean my aura right now? Instead of only having the one tool from my teacher that decided that the rose was for cleaning the aura, you're like, hey, Akashic Records, what do I need to clean my aura today? And they're like, well, actually, you need this particular mantra, or you need, this combination of like candlelight and color. What you know what I mean? And it's just like it's so much more fun. Like it's like, oh my gosh, there's so much.
Yes. And it tailors to your uniqueness. We're not all supposed to be the same. We're not all supposed to be put into the same box. There are supposed to be no boxes at this stage. So I want to ask you a question. I ask everyone who comes on the pod, and I know you're going to have a big, juicy answer for this one.
Oh, pressure.
Yes, no pressure at all. So the question is, how have the Akashic Records helped you on your spiritual journey and your business journey?
Yeah, I feel like the Akashic Records are the ultimate sounding board. It's like anytime you have a business idea, anytime you have a new download coming in. For instance, I was in my Priestess Path Mastermind last week, and I'm teaching this course called Alien Iconoclast, right? And it's like this radical idea about really bringing in intergalactic intelligence for like new Earth leaders, right? And I had the download for the class and it was so juicy. And I was like, this is amazing. But at the same time, I wasn't really sure what the content was. I was like, I know that this wants to come through, but I'm not 100% sure, just like in my logical brain, what I'm supposed to teach with this. So, of course, I tap into the Akashic Records and I'm like, okay, obviously, this is in the subtle field. This is coming through. I'm ready to transmit it, but what the heck is it? And the Akashic Records were like, well, guess what? You're gonna actually channel a class, like straight up channel a class. You're not gonna have an outline like you normally have. You're not going to do your normal sort of like teacher thing where you're all prepared. You're gonna go in and we're gonna channel through you the information for this first class. And then this is gonna be a lot different kind of teaching experience for you and for your course. And so I guess that's like the ultimate example of it is that it is always giving you new information, new ways to approach it, new ideologies and kind of constructs of how to teach and exist in your courses and in your business. I really tune into it for everything from my pricing, because one of the things they told me very early on is that the numbers are so important. And that when you have certain prices, they are actually like a beacon out to the right people who are going to find you, because those are the numbers, those are the vibrations and frequencies that those people are working in. So the numbers become so much more than a price. They become like an actual transmission out to the people who go, oh my gosh, the course is 4444. Those are my numbers, right? And we all talk about that stuff, but it's an energetic exchange. It's like a way of psychically telling the people, hey, this is for you, and the people being able to receive that. So I mean, anything from the concepts to the pricing to the actual content. I mean, I'm in constant contact and relationship with the Akashic field for all of it, really.
I love that. I love that. And one of the things I love about Vanessa, and we've had this conversation a little bit offline, but I want to have a conversation now because one of the things that I'm bringing through for this year for my students is a course in the Akashic Records all about releasing money blocks, releasing money wounds, and reconstructing the relationship to money. So this is going to be an additional module for this year for people who are working in their own Akashic Records. They've got the foundation, so they've got a level one, they understand what they're doing, but they really have a problem with money. And this has come about because in my one-on-one work with people, one of the things I have learned over the years is that people, and especially people in female bodies, have a huge resistance to charging what they're worth. Okay, actually receiving an equal energetic exchange. So actually paying attention to the law of reciprocity for the amazing work that they're doing. And one of the things that I love about Vanessa and her content, and she has absolutely no problems in charging her worth. And I want to talk to you because I know there will no doubt be some witch wounding that you had to work through in the Akashic Records. There will have been different blocks and resistance, but I'd like to talk to you and ask you if you want to share your journey with money in respect of how to still look after your spiritual development and still have your expansion at the forefront of your mind, whilst also knowing that you need to have money to survive and thrive on planet Earth in this physical reality.
Yeah, I think I'll preface this whole thing by just giving a little, context for my background and the way that I grew up, because I grew up in Northern California. So think of, hippies and communes and counterculture and, marijuana farms, the whole thing, right? That's where Vanessa's little soul was seated on planet Earth when it grew up, right? So there was a lot of consciousness around the barter system, around how everything should be equal, everything should be shared. And then there was an undercurrent of shame anything that was a little bit more than everybody else. And so even though there was a sense of abundance, because, Northern California is the fifth largest economy in the world, right? So there's lots of money in that state. It's flowing, but there was definitely an invisible or an unspoken truth that wanting too much was shameful. And so it took me a while to actually even locate that I had that conditioning. And then once I did, it was, a slow unraveling of that ideology and of that restriction. And what it really comes down to is that I really believe that God's love, the energy of the universe, is infinite. And there's no reality in which I can really settle on that makes sense that would want you to suffer and have scarcity and to not be well supported, not be able to take care of yourself and your family, not be able to enjoy the beautiful riches of the world, the joys and the beautiful experiences that are available to us on planet Earth. There's no place that I can land where it makes sense that an almighty loving God, goddess, energy field would want us to not have access to that. It
Mm-hmm.
just doesn't make sense. Like, we want to give you this incredible experience of planet Earth where all of these beautiful possibilities exist, but we don't want you to actually have like the keys to unlock those doors.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make sense. Why would a loving, devotional, force give us those doors and no keys? Like, it just
Mm-hmm.
doesn't, it just never made sense to me. So I think that what I just landed on, kind of just realizing that there is an infinite abundance and that me having more doesn't mean you having less. It
Yes.
means we all grow the game together. And guess what?
Yes.
The universe is expanding, consciousness is expanding, wealth is expanding, everything is expanding. And so it follows the rules of existence that
Mm-hmm.
growing in our abundance, we would keep growing in our ability and our capacity to hold more of the riches of the universe. And so that I think is the big thing. And then the other thing I will say is that as medicine women, as healers, as people who are holding a lot of responsibility energetically, you can't work like a normal person. You can't work, like if you're going to do 3 healings in a day, you need lots of time to care for your energetic field. You need lots of resources to support you and make sure that you have the space to hold the kind of infrastructure to give those healings, give that vibration. So you need the money to be able to have the structure to do the healing and to share your gifts. So that's like bare minimum of this whole thing, but I just feel like it's absurd to think that we're not meant to have everything and to enjoy the riches of this lifetime.
Exactly. And I love that. I think you've absolutely nailed a couple of points there. Number one is the shame. The shame block is so common around this topic. It's that I can't be spiritual and
Yes.
I can't be spiritual and drink coffee. I can't be spiritual and go on a 5-star vacation. I can't be spiritual and watch some trashy TV. The whole human incarnation is a spiritual experience. If your soul had wanted to stay in higher dimensions, it would have. But you've chosen to incarnate into a lifetime on planet Earth. Why not have fun while you're here? Why not enjoy in whichever way you, particularly as a unique individual, want to enjoy this experience? And the other point about this expansion, this just because I have doesn't mean you don't. That's another thing where I think women especially really struggle, because it's that idea of I'm taking it from somebody else, which is a conditioning that they've been raised to believe, whereas that's not actually the case. And it leads to people having a really unhealthy relationship with it. And as well as I do, shame is one of those really low vibrational frequencies that if you're holding it, it is going to weigh you down and weigh you down heavy. So if you're listening to this and, maybe you're getting a little bit triggered by hearing us talk about money on a spiritual podcast, or you're thinking, oh, why are they talking about money in the Akashic Records in the same conversation? Dig into that trigger, because there was probably some underlying shame in there. And that is where the work needs to be done from the releasing of that.
It's a construct that we've been indoctrinated into. And as healers, as new earth leaders, whatever catchy little phrase you want to use, these are the systems that we have to really look at and decide if we want to keep investing our time and energy in those ideologies. And,
Yes.
and I know that you're a stand for really, kind of pulling back the curtain and looking at, hey, why are we continuing to invest in these structures that are dying structures
Mm-hmm.
that don't even make sense for the new frequency and the new energy of the field we're living in? And I think I call it a poverty curse, that literally people have kind of bought into this poverty curse, or even this poverty wound, whatever it is. It's a structure of the old world that's dying. In this new
Yes.
birthing society and experience and vibration, there really is limitless abundance. And that is up to us to actually hold the consciousness of that and anchor that in.
Yes. And that's the most important key, isn't it? Having the container and the field. So your light grid able to not only receive, but also hold and plant and grow, And this is why the connection to the body, the connection to the earth, making sure the nervous system and that root chakra are regulated and balanced. That's why people like me and people like Vanessa will tell you over and over again, we're not trying to transcend the human experience. That's not the point of this expansion. The point of the expansion is to be able to go into higher consciousness, take what you need, and then bring it into earth and help the expansion of the consciousness of the collective and earth herself.
Yes. And we are in such a pivotal time right now. To be incarnated on the planet at this time, first of all, we all chose it. So consider yourself already an advanced master soul playing a game at this level, because this is advanced level Earth school.
Definitely.
And I think that sometimes a lot of people think maybe I don't know what I'm doing, or I am not that advanced or whatever. And I would always just let people know that if you're here at this time with the complexity of what is unfolding on planet Earth, with the pressure, there's so much pressure. Even if you just think about the amazing amounts of information that's being projected at us all day long, if your body and your mind can even withstand the pressure of being here right now, you're an advanced player in the game. And I don't know where I'm going with this, except for to just say that you're authentic, but celebrate that you're here at such an awesome, fun, crazy, cool time to experience what's possible and how to maneuver in this experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have so many people come to me and they'll say, I didn't sign up for this. I'm sure I was drunk, I was high, like my soul didn't know what it was doing. And I say, I promise you it did. And I want to touch on something that you said about breaking out of the structures and out of the labels, because I find this a lot with people as well when they start to, and I know you work with a lot of people uncovering their gifts and helping them really step into their power. What happens, I see with a lot of people, is they're trying to put themselves into an old box. So they want to say, okay, well, what am I? They say, am I a Reiki healer? And there's nothing wrong with being a Reiki healer. But when you actually tune into what it is they're doing, they're not just doing Reiki, they're also perhaps channeling something interdimensional in and working with some higher beings, or they're working on bringing through some different modalities from even parallel universes when we look at it from the Akashic perspective. What they don't want to say, and they don't know how to say and how to fully embrace this, I can't put myself into that box. It's the programming and the conditioning. You have to be able to say you're a this or you're a that. I'm an Akashic Records teacher and practitioner is my kind of box that I put myself in. We all have to do it to a certain degree. But what I think we need to do more of as a collective is really own what else we are bringing through. Because what I'm seeing a lot, and I'm sure you're seeing the same with people, is that especially this year on, there are so many new modalities, new frequencies, new information, new connections, a much more cosmic consciousness that's available to people. And then people are going to be able to anchor that into themselves to help other people, but they have to first acknowledge it and own it and say, okay, this is actually what I'm doing. So how do you help people when they come to work with you and they're, you know, oh, I'm a Reiki healer, you tune in and actually they're doing all of this other stuff. How do you help them shift from that, this is all I do, to actually there's so much more to this, and then really embody and embrace that?
Yeah, I love this question. Well, there's several tiers to this. I think the first one is getting away from this idea that we have to find a niche. I think that this is another system that's kind of fading away, and it's an old system that does work. You can go find the box and you can put yourself in it. Put your sign up that says I'm in this box, and everyone goes, "Oh, I know that box. I've seen that box before. Cool." But one of my mentors, Shoshana Raven, she always talks about being a life artist. And I really love this idea because it's really about what kind of art are you making through your gifts? What are you expressing through the facets of your genius? And how can you actually give people a bigger embodiment of the gifts that you hold and the way that you're creating art from those gifts? One of my big stands is actually to reinvent business ideology practices. And my Priestess Path program is all about that. It's really about taking those old structures of business and updating them for the new earth. And I think this is part of it, is how we talk about it, how we label ourselves, the words that we use, and getting away from that same kind of in the box structure and thinking about, well, how do people receive my energy?
Mhm,
How do they feel when they're around? Like,
mhm.
what is the experience that when I get in a room with someone, this is how they feel my energy feel? These are the kind of thought forms they have. This is what comes into their heart chakra. That becomes my real art. That becomes my real business and my gifts and my offering. And so, yes, there is a sense of like, okay, I do need to put that on a sales page at some point.
Yeah.
But the truth is, the stronger you're connected with that vibration of what you project, the less that sales page needs to say. And the sales page almost becomes like second or third tier. It's like, oh, yeah, I need to just check the box that there's like a page that says something that I can sign up for, because I've already got such a huge broadcast from the vibration of this person. I just want more of it because I like how
Yes.
she makes me feel about myself. And that, I think, is the most important thing, is not what are you teaching me? It's how are you making me feel about myself?
Yes, absolutely, because it's through that vibration that the person is going to receive the activations and the expansion that you have to offer. And this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, which is why it's so, so important that people who are in the business of being of service to others have to look after themselves first, because you're not going to activate anybody. You're not going to expand anybody if you are not looking after yourself as a priority. And this is why, this idea of it's selfish to look after ourselves, another old paradigm that really needs to go, is
That
completely the wrong way to look at things. It's I'm looking after myself so I can then be of service to others, so I can give from my overflowing cup, rather than the old paradigm of I just have to give and give and give, and I'm not going to be replenished, because life itself is going to replenish you.
Yes, beautifully said. Yeah, and I think the other thing about that is that something you have to realize is that you're going to grow in your capacity to hold more and more and more. So even
Hmm.
if you feel like you have to, be a little more protective of your energy in the beginning, that's actually a good thing, because what you're doing is you're in an incubation period, you're shoring up the frequency. And then before you know it, as you grow in your practice, grow in your capacity, you'll be able to hold way, way more. It's not like you have to stay small and protected forever. It's just that you have to be aware of where your edge is and soften that edge and smooth the edge and grow it in a way that you continue to hold that frequency within that container. And I think that a lot of people also get the idea that like, oh, okay, I'm going to get away from that old idea of like, it's not okay to take care of myself. Then people swing the other way in the pendulum. And then they think they need like 20 hours a day of self-care. And you're like, okay, find that
Yes.
sweet spot where you're pushing the edge a tiny bit, but you're softening the edge. You're not making
Yes.
it hard, like, I'm gonna break through this barrier. You're like, let me like dance with that edge, and then let me soften it. And then, oh my gosh, next week I can hold a little bit more. Or maybe next week you gotta take a few more naps. But I think it's like the whole thing just needs to be very much more in tune with where you are in your journey, and you having the sophistication to know and then allow yourself to grow in the way that really works for you so that you can keep expanding without burning yourself out.
Oh, I love that. And I think not burning yourself out is so important, because this is what I also see with people is they want the quick fixes. And we're going to talk a little bit about Kundalini here, because it's a conversation I've had with some people recently. And I know you are the expert. So what people want, they want the quick fixes. They want to send someone some money and have everything activated within them. And they don't realize that the unfoldment process, that journey, is beautiful. Allowing things to unfold as they should in their own time, absolutely working towards that, but not forcing and not pushing. Because if you try to force or you try to push, you're going to burn yourself out, whether it's doing too much work, being of service to others, or trying to force yourself into levels of consciousness that you're not perhaps ready to receive yet. And it's okay. There is no hurry. The soul is never in a hurry, but we have to be a lot more gentle with ourselves. We have to stop the comparisonitis of, oh, well, that person's doing this, and then I want to do the same as that person. Unlocking everything within you, activating within you, and letting it all unfold is the fastest way to do things. And I want to bring in Kundalini here because I was having a conversation, and you are a Kundalini expert, in my opinion. Okay. And I have a lot of, I have a lot of respect for Kundalini practice. I know it's been in the doghouse a little bit, in the press and the media, as all things go through the cycles of being the new thing that everybody loves, and then, oh, actually, no, let's tear it all down. So we don't need to go there, because that's what happens with everything. But I personally have had along in my journey, I've had some extremely intense Kundalini experiences, not stimulated through any particular practice of Kundalini. I've never kind of gone down the road of really wanting to deeply study Kundalini and work with it as a separate modality. But I have had some extreme experiences with Kundalini waking up as she likes to, blasting everything open, and then leaving you a little bit frayed for a while afterwards. And one of my people in my membership was talking about Kundalini, and my advice to them was, look, if you want to work with Kundalini, absolutely do. It's a beautiful, powerful, potent energy. And when you can really harness it and work with it, which I have now learned how to do, it's beautiful. However, get yourself a teacher. And the reason that I say that is because it is so powerful, and it is so potent and life-changing and just amazing in so many ways. It's not you have to get a teacher to learn from. You have to have a teacher, in my opinion, with Kundalini, because you want someone who's walked that path or is a couple of steps ahead of you on that path. So when stuff does start to happen that can be a little bit strange, let's face it, or can be a little bit discombobulating, that you have someone there to hold space for you and to let you know that everything's okay and that this is part of the process. So I'd really like it if you talked a little bit about Kundalini, because whilst I'm a firm believer that we have everything we need within us and that we can initiate, we can go through all of these different things ourselves by ourselves, I also think there are times on the spiritual journey where having a teacher or a mentor or a coach or somebody to work with is actually very beneficial. It's not sitting at the feet of the guru like it would have been in times gone by, Well, it's that having that person who's a few steps ahead. So if whatever you'd like to share on Kundalini, I'd appreciate.
Yeah, that was beautiful. I mean, we share our consciousness is so aligned on these things. And I completely agree. The reason I actually love Kundalini as a practice because it's awakening your own energy. It's awakening more of you and within you. And so that was always the thing for me is that it wasn't necessarily about this external force coming in. It was about, oh, there's more of me that I can bring online and I can
Yes.
activate so that I can hold a bigger compass for navigating this beautiful life of mine. And so I totally agree. I think that it's not about, giving yourself into a guru or getting into this kind of old, again, that's an old paradigm. The guru
Yes.
in you is the new way. This is the new earth. And we're looking for the leader within, not the leader around us. So I think that for me, Kundalini was a way to really evoke more of my own essence and also to tune the chakra system with more vibration and more frequency so that
Yeah.
exactly what you were saying before, when you start stepping into bigger expansion and bigger projection and holding bigger spaces and whatever your medicine is that you're here to deliver, that you have a chakra system and an electrical grid, we could say, that can hold the wattage of what
Yes.
you're delivering. And so to me, Kundalini yoga was a fast and effective way to tune the chakra system so that you could run more voltage through the system without getting, like you said, frayed, right? And yes, you might meet that edge in the practice where you kind of go, oh, okay, I got a little sizzled today, but that's where I'm a personal believer in having a daily practice or sadhana, and really conditioning the system every day, doing something
Yes.
to awaken that Kundalini, to run it through the system and to get your electrical grid used to that kind of voltage, that kind of wattage, so that it's not just, hey, I plugged myself into the wall and I got electrocuted, pulled the plug out, didn't plug back in for a year.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think I think it's a great analogy and it's a great way of explaining it because I think when you start working and tuning into these types of energies within, I'm never not amazed by how much power we actually have within us. I'm never not in complete awe of the amount we can expand our consciousness and the experiences that we can have
Yes.
because there is just so much more to us than the physical form that we see, that the limiting beliefs and conditions and programs that we have. And I, like you, just want to kind of scream that from the rooftops and just shake people and remind them of every amazing experience they have is available to them, but they have to take that radical self-responsibility that I know you will have heard from the Akashic Records time and time again. It's one of those core features, radical self-responsibility, and saying, right, I actually need to look at the stuff that is coming up within me when I try to sit to do my practice. I actually need to pay attention to what's coming up rather than trying to escape or bypass or avoid. I need to lean into it. I need to dig into it and go, okay, what's this teaching me? Because life itself is the best teacher that we will ever have. So I would love for you to share what you have planned for this year, because I think I saw on Instagram before what looks like an absolutely fabulous retreat in Hawaii. Okay. And I'd love for you to share with the listeners all the different things. I know you have a busy schedule and you're very organized. You have your schedule planned well in advance. So I'd love for you to share what it is you have planned this year, how people can work with you, because I know that you are a very busy lady, but one who, if you do get the chance to work with Vanessa, I would definitely would recommend it.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Um, yeah, one thing I'll just say is that I have not always been so planned in advance. But thing that happens, and I think this is a really good representation, is that as you grow, right, the capacity grows. All of a sudden, I look up and I'm like, wow, I'm like 6 months to a year planned in advance. And that never happened before. And I think it's a good reminder for people out there that are feeling like they're just holding on by a thread. Like,
Yes.
can I even make it through? What am I doing tomorrow, let alone 6 months from now? It
Yeah.
does. The time starts to change. Your
Oh,
release
yes.
starts to expand. And all of a sudden, you're like, how do I have so much time? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
So with that said, if we first have a retreat in Bali that's coming up, and that is actually focused around Nyepi, which is the Balinese New Year. And that culminates in a full 24 hours of silence where the island goes completely silent. So
Oh, how beautiful.
so we'll be talk about sitting with yourself, right?
Mm.
We'll be dropping into that. We'll obviously be participating in a lot of the beautiful Balinese traditions and ceremonies leading up to the Nyepi, including this beautiful parade that kind of is like their final hurrah before everyone drops into silence for the 24-hour period. So we'll be doing that end of March. And then, yes, we just launched our Maui Goddess Retreat. That will be June 25th through 30th. I had the wonderful, beautiful gift of living on Maui for 2 years when I decided not to take my return flight one year and just stayed. So I have a really special relationship with the aloha spirit and the water and just the spirit of Pele and Namaka, which is the water and the fire and all the beautiful, beautiful elementals that shape that land. And so like you, Suzanne, I really believe in you get so much from the energetic upgrade of being together and also using the elemental forces and the portal of the grid of planet Earth. I always feel like you could be in a Zoom room for a year, 2 years, 3 years, or you could go to one activating retreat and surpass your spiritual growth or whatever you want to call it. And so I'm just a big proponent of getting in sacred spaces with sacred people and activating very big energy and big frequency. So we've got that going on. I'll be guiding African. Well, I won't be guiding it. I won't be part of it, but we'll be taking a group to Kenya for a safari, and then we'll be trekking with the gorillas in Uganda later this year. So there's always like lots of amazing,
Oh, wow.
energetic things that you can get into. And then, of course, my baby is really the Priestess Path, which is my year-long mastermind for spiritual entrepreneurs that are trying to up level their gifts and really be in heart-centered service and
Don't say it.
I might ask you to get rich. I don't know.
Well, I would hope by now in this conversation, everyone's listening is thinking, yes, and I could get rich, and there's nothing wrong with that, and it's not a bad thing, and maybe want to enjoy the human life a bit more. So I know you obviously have a lot going on, and the practices that serve each individual are individual to them. But what would be your one practice that no matter what, no matter where you are in the world, no matter what you're doing, what is one practice that is your kind of go-to practice to keep you sane, shall we say, to keep you in alignment? What's that one go-to practice?
Yeah, I think it's really working with mantra. I feel like sound codes are the whole frontier. I don't know. I was going to say the new frontier, but vibration and sound. Om was the primordial sound, right? It was everything came from. And I think that working with sound codes and mantra and really understanding how you can create frequency to shift reality is, to me, one of the foundational ways to alchemize your reality into whatever that you want it to look like. So working with mantra, working with sound, I think is probably the main thing. I have these, I wish I had, I have one right here. I have these little boxes all around my house. They're called mantra boxes, and they're sacred mantras loaded onto these, and they play all throughout the house to keep a really high vibration of sound in the space. And so I'm just always working with mantra. Mantra is like always running through me. I have it everywhere in my space. I take mantra boxes with me when I travel. So I would say mantra and sound is really kind of the bedrock of what I practice everywhere and anywhere.
Okay, and one more question for you before you go, because you've been very generous giving me your time today, and I do appreciate it. And I know the listeners will appreciate it as well. But lots of people are feeling the word of the year very discombobulated. They are feeling chaos, confusion. They're being completely absorbed in this energy of fear that's being pumped into us from every direction. So people are feeling this, and you and I both know we're in a mass awakening period. So this is all, you know, normal business. This is how it goes. It's okay. We can all navigate through it. We've all navigated through these periods before. But for anyone who's listening, who's sitting there and thinking, oh, well, it's all right for you, Vanessa. You've got these practices. You're doing all of this. What are some words of encouragement that you can give people? Because I know that you won't always have felt this amazing, expansive, and bright on your spiritual journey. I know there will have been times where you have been down in the depths of despair, feeling all of these lower vibrational frequencies. What's some words of advice that you would give someone who's going through that, and kind of ways that you would help them to navigate through that at this time, given what's going on from a collective energy perspective?
Mm, Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just zooming out.
Mm.
Just if you can get perspective. And I think about this often that no matter what time period we've been on planet Earth, somebody somewhere was always having a beautiful life. Even in the dark ages, there were people that were living in remote islands that had peaceful societies, that were living off the land, that were having a joyous experience. And so, what I would just say is that when you have the thought everything is going wrong and that nothing could possibly be good with anything that's happening, just remember that there is always somebody on planet Earth who is living a beautiful, joyous life. And why can't that person be you? There's always somebody who gets to have that golden energy. And why wouldn't it be you? Why couldn't it be you? And to even just give yourself the permission that there is a reality in which you could be happy and joyous and having fun in spite of anything that's going on planet Earth, I think it's just the crack where the light gets in.
Yes.
And sometimes you think, you know, especially obviously here in America, we've been going through huge changes politically and people are so polarized and there's so much
Mhm.
going on. But through all of that, there are people who are still joyous and full of love and positive and are giving to the collective in a beautiful, loving way. And that can always be you. You can always
Yeah.
find that location to be that person, and it's okay. You can give yourself permission to be that person.
I love that because I think it's so important when it is times like this to focus on what can I give? What can I create? How can I stay centered? How can I stay expansive? It's a conscious choice that we make every single day. Where am I going to focus my energy and attention?
Yeah.
Do you want to focus your energy and attention on things that are painful? And I'm not saying ignore them, but what
Yes.
I'm saying is, where are you focusing the majority of your attention? And that's a conscious choice that we get to make as a human. And that's part of the human game. And
Yes.
we're in, as Vanessa says, an advanced stage of the human game. So it's really about, okay, where am I focusing my attention? What can I create? What can I bring forward? And what can I bring through me to help the expansion of the consciousness, to help support people through their expansion of their consciousness?
Yes, absolutely. And I don't mean to minimize this with this statement because that's not how it's intended to be at all, but it is good, I think, to put in perspective that like we're only here for a very short time and all of
Mhm.
us are going to die and probably a
Yes.
lot sooner than you realize. And I had the beautiful gift of having a near death experience at around 30 years of age. And the reason I say that was a beautiful gift is because I got smacked with the reality that even as serious and deep and consumed as I am in this reality of life, and it all feels like so much and so important, it's going to be over like that. And I'm
Yep.
going to return to the infinite one in 2 seconds and
Mhm.
not take it so seriously,
Yes.
just to lighten up and to enjoy the ride. And just, life is for the living, it's for the expansion, it's for the flowering and the blooming and the blossoming of your gifts and your energy and your love. And to not get so inverted on yourself around but being so serious and so important
Mm.
because at the end of the day, it's going to be over like that.
Yeah. I think that's so true. And it's one of the things that comes through a lot with the Akashic Records, because you are zooming out and you're seeing these different lifetimes that have happened. And in each of those lifetimes, you will have been as serious and as invested in that one lifetime, and you're not in it anymore, and it's completely okay. It's the Akashic Records gives you that much bigger objective perspective. Or even if you live for 100 years in this lifetime, it's a blink of an eye from the perspective of the soul. It's a blink of an eye. And it's a blink of an eye where you get to choose, what type of experience am I going to have while I'm there? Is it going to be focused on pain and suffering and all of these things and putting myself into that frequency? Or is it going to be focused on love and expansion and co-creation and all of the beautiful things that I can bring through at this time?
Amen, sister.
Well, thank you so, so much for joining us today. I will, of course, put all of your details, how people can find you, everything like that into the show notes today. I will definitely be asking you to come back on, because we didn't even talk about cosmic consciousness. And that is a whole podcast episode in itself that I want to get you on and pick your brains on. But thank you again for your time today. And I will see you again for an episode if you're willing to come back for more.
Oh my gosh, anytime. I would love it. I feel like you and I could post a 24-hour podcast-a-thon and not run out of things to talk about.
I tell you, honestly, there's so many things. And, I think these types of conversations are so important, because I do think people are just getting so caught up in the noise. They're getting so caught up in the distractions and all of the stuff. And it's like, no. Let's just get back to where you were at.